Today is day 9 for economics. This is our last day of content before we review and have our assessment next week. Students read an article about stories about organ donations and some of the problems that have occurred, and it was a good example of incentives. So all of the handouts you can find on Schoology, and encourage you to check those out. And then some of the examples that I have here in the PowerPoint are ones that we discussed in class. So for today, we're looking at incentives and unintended consequences. Feel free to pause at any time. I'm just going to go through and share with you what we did in class and the conversations that we had. So it should be pretty quick. We continued from Monday, in which we started looking at incentives, and on Monday we looked at the first 2 learning objectives. Today we focused on the third one, especially this idea of unintended consequences. These are the standards we are assessed on next week, and then the key terms assessment. This is our last set of key terms, and again, number 4 is what we will define today. As a reminder, the key terms quiz on Monday is only for those who are yet to pass the standard. It's optional for everybody else. And one more reminder of the 4.0 options. You can find all of this on Schoology. Let me know if I can assist you with printing anything out or if you need any additional support or clarification. We discussed the article that students read for the Do Now about a boy in China who traded his kidney for money. That money he then used to buy a laptop and iPad. And so a lot of different wants exist, and we reviewed that all of these wants are unlimited, and scarcity is present among all of these things because we have limited resources. And organs, in this case, would be land, a gift from nature, and they come from people, and they're all resources that are limited. The incentives would be money. It's a monetary incentive. It's a reward. The boy received that much money, and then it was up to him how he was going to use that money. So it's a good example of how we experience this problem of scarcity. We want things, but we have limited resources, and how we can make choices that will help us overcome scarcity to get what we want. And then we discussed possible incentives to encourage organ donation, and that led into talking about future consequences, how as a high schooler it might seem like a good idea to want to give away a kidney in exchange for free college tuition, but when we think about the future consequences, it might make us reevaluate that decision. Same with little Zhang. That was 7 years ago when he made that decision to trade his kidney for money to get the iPad and laptop. Would he make the same decision today, considering everything that he has gone through in the past 7 years? And so future consequences, we look at the law of unintended consequences. These outcomes that are not foreseen or intended, we don't anticipate them, despite a purposeful action or incentive. And people behave rationally. We make decisions in which our benefits are greater than our costs. And so for the boy in China, his perceived benefits of getting that laptop and that money for the laptop and iPad was greater than the cost of giving up that kidney. And economics is about helping us to make wise decisions, and we can make wise decisions, or at least better decisions, when we consider the future consequences, not just the short-term immediate gain that we may receive, but the long-term outcomes. And so a good example of this was this video clip. You can click on this and access this on YouTube of the authors of Freakonomics. One of them has a little girl, and if you pause the video, watch that clip, and then go back and see if you were right with regard to each of these questions. So for the first one, a man's incentive was definitely the M&Ms. Categorize that as non-monetary and a reward. Desired behavior, she could use the bathroom on her own. And the unintended consequences, she could control her bladder so well, she'd go to the bathroom when she wanted, and she got all of these M&Ms. And so, in a sense, the incentive worked so well, it worked too well. And so, there you have it. One more example that we looked at comes from the government. It's not just about changing behaviors of individuals, but of entire countries, so a macroeconomic concept. Several years ago, the government had this program called Cash for Clunkers, in which if your car had under a certain miles per gallon of gas, you could exchange it trade it in for a better car, but you would get a rebate, $3,500 or $4,500 towards the purchase of your new car. And so if you click on this video, you can check that out. Think about these questions, pause this video, and I will go over those questions here in a moment. Okay, so the incentive for this one was to trade up to purchase a newer car, and the incentive was the money, the rebate, and it worked. We could say that it worked too well because they ran out of money within a week, and that's one of the unintended consequences of running out of money because the program was so popular. Another unintended consequence, if you caught it, was the environmental impact could actually be greater as a result of this, where people who trade up to a more fuel-efficient car may end up driving more than they would have before, thus contributing to more pollution. So that was as far as we got today. There's another handout on Schoology about LeBron James and his decisions, and it's good for you to read and think about the incentives that he faced and how that affected his behavior. Your homework is just a quiz on Schoology, and don't forget to study for the assessment on Wednesday. The 4.0 options are available on Schoology. That's it.